the NFL. Another week. Week 8. Devastation. Week 7 was devastation.
Yeah,
Devastation. This is my shining grace right now.
the Pats.
Pats winning up against the Bills. No, we did not pick that game, but yes, it made me happy.
Well, Justin,
That was my only shining light. Only shining light.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. No saving grace for you this week.
No.
You were 0-5.
No.
You're 14-22 overall. You just have to brush it off, man. You just
That's the
have to
second
shake
time,
it off.
man.
It's your second 0-4.
I got to bounce back because I think I was 4-1 after my last 0-5.
You were.
So let's hit it. We gotta hit it. We gotta hit it this week, man. We gotta hit
You
it.
were. Let's start game 1. Bucks Falcons. Younghoe Koo with the game winner. Tough to see. I mean, that could have gone either way. That was a sloppy game down in Tampa. I mean,
Can't get a break, brother.
yeah, that was rough. Let's move on. Giants Commanders. That was one of my wins. I liked that.
I
Giants
can't
plus
trust in the
2.5.
Commanders ever
Tyrod
again,
Taylor
dude.
stepped up. got
Yeah,
it
he
done.
should stay there. Get rid of Daniel Jones.
I agree.
But They paid the man.
Lions Ravens.
What happened? Just they walked onto the field and that was it. There wasn't anything else going on.
It was over so quickly, and I do feel like that was a one-off, right? I don't think we're going to get another Lions game where they lose 38-6 and the game is over before it even starts. But that is what happened. They were factually over so quick. That game was over so fast. I couldn't believe it.
It was another one of those wake-up calls, right? You win the big game that everyone's hyping up against the Chiefs, and then you wake up, Seattle's like, hey, snap back. And
Yeah.
then you lock in, you hit a great stride, and maybe you got comfortable. And you need another wake up.
They just didn't look ready. They looked physically and mentally, emotionally unprepared. And I blame the coaching staff first and foremost. But Jared Goff, big concern for me, looked very frazzled, very frantic, did not look comfortable at all. And just, you can see it in his footwork a lot of times where you can tell when he's confident, his feet are looking good, he's stepping up in the pocket. He looked very unsettled, did not really know what to do with his feet or where to go with the ball a ton of times. Just not a very inspiring performance from the Lions. And it's a concern, but I think they can right it, especially against a Raiders team that, we'll get into here briefly. But, chalk it up as an L because, 1 L is the same as 1 L, right? I mean,
we will
you lose by
never
50 or you lose by 2 points, it counts the same.
we will never overcome the Ravens.
No, we will not.
Never.
No, we will not. Chargers Chiefs. Brandon Staley. I'm done. I'm done with the Staley experience.
Thank you.
It's over for me. I'm done.
Mhm.
They're 2-4. They're not good. Herbert looks good, but they're not a good team.
Every team, aside from the Chiefs, in that AFC West division is in the bottom 5 of the division of the conference.
It's terrible.
It's an embarrassment. Look, the Chiefs get it done.
Yeah,
Plain and simple. Like week in and week out.
they've already won the division.
Yeah, it's over. Yeah, over for the division. They'll be in the playoffs. It is what it is. But they
1 or 2
are
seed.
beatable. They are very beatable. But they're just playing good ball. Even though Vikings game still questionable. Not questionable. We knew there were problems that weren't called. But past that, it's the Chiefs, man.
Well, and then game 5, Dolphins Eagles.
The Dolphins packed.
Yeah. I don't know.
They just didn't look like they were played okay, but like they didn't know what to do.
I mean, there was a lot of missed calls. The Dolphins didn't get a single call their way. The Eagles were not penalized once, so
That's
that played a
crazy.
role. But Tua, throws that interception. Their offense, they couldn't run the ball. It just was not what we've gotten accustomed to from the Finns. And to me, it looked like a lesser version of their game against the Bills where they go on the road, they play a tough team, and things just aren't looking as pretty, as sexy, as rosy for the Dolphins and their
Mhm.
offense. And when things get tough, I'm not sure what their response is. And that's my big concern for the Finns right now is when something isn't working, what do you go to then, right? Because it was clear they couldn't run the ball. So it was all on Tua. And when it was all on Tua, he just did not make enough plays. Because they are a really balanced team.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Everyone wants to talk about Tyreek and Waddle, but Mostert and Achane, when obviously he was healthy, I mean, they were running the football at will. Now, you go against a tough Philly rush defense, and they completely take that away from you. Well, you got to have a response, and they just did not have it.
Absolutely.
And then the game that I gave you on Twitter, Vikings +7. Boom, that hits. Awesome. And they beat the Niners, which was funny. But they obviously covered. Touchdown underdog. Check out the Twitter picks at STJ Sports Pod. 2-1 on the Twitter exclusives. It's better than my college football picks. 2-1 on Twitter. It's awesome.
He's hitting it. He's hitting it.
I'm out of the 3. So I was 2-4 in the week. I'm now 20-17 overall in the NFL. Justin, again, 0-5, 14-22 overall. But we got a beautiful week 8. I think it's one of the better slates to bet on. Justin, concerned going in, but we're going to see. He's responded after an 0-5 week. Maybe he's got the right elixir. So let's get into it.
All right. A nice, beautiful NFC North matchup for game 1. Vikings in Green Bay. Vikings 1.5, favored by 1.5. They come off a nice win against the Niners, who they beat the week before. They're coming off another win. Bears. They're coming off a Bears win. They're coming off a Niners win. I mean, the Vikings are not as bad as we think they are. Jordan Addison playing amazing. Now in the talks for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Jefferson out, and they're still playing well. And this Green Bay team, we saw them light it up week 1 against the Bears. I didn't know what happened. And since then, we don't know what their identity is.
No, and it's exactly why I love them in this spot.
Oh, boy. You're going to stress me out. I was like, watch him stress me out and start saying, oh, here comes the Packers.
The Packers, terrible loss last week against the Broncos, coming off the bye. Now you get Minnesota, who just beat San Francisco. They're looking hot. They're looking pretty. But this is just a 1.5-point game. And while you can tell me all you want about how good Jordan Addison has looked, I'm going to be honest with you. Their passing offense in general for the Vikings, it hasn't been that great since Jettas went down. And really, they're getting it done on the defensive side of the ball. Why do I kind of like that in this matchup? I like it because I'm not really too concerned about Jordan Love at home. He's looked better at home than he has on the road.
Agreed.
I think you get a Jordan Love that, and a Packers offense really that understands what they need to do. They've been down for too long. I think this is the week where they bounce back. You get a divisional opponent, a team that is playing on a short week too, and I just think this is one of those spots where Minnesota, everyone is going to think that they have kind of, gotten back to what they need to do, right? They're back to their winning ways from last year. They're winning these close games. But I halt you and say, no. They're still the Vikings. They're going to mess up from time to time, and this is one of those spots. So give me the Packers, +1.5. I think LaFleur gets it done, and I do think, Jordan Love had a nice start to the year.
Mm-hmm.
He's had a bit of a rough patch. I think he gets it going in this one. I do. I mean, the Vikings defense has been good, but I don't know, man. I mean, they love to blitz. I think Jordan Love, I just think he can get it done. I do. I believe in Love for one game. One game only. I believe in Love for one game. And it's this one. This number is just screaming Packers to me.
I'll tell you what, man. I have no breakdowns or logic this week. I just kind of threw caution to the wind because my formulas clearly my mind and formula don't work. Apparently I can bounce back, but it seems like I just can't get it right and rolling. I hate it sometimes. And I was literally like, let's see how each of these picks go, along with what Evan's got rolling around. I'm taking the Vikings.
Okay.
It's 1.5. Evan is confident that I am making a mistake.
I am a little bit. I am a little bit.
I'm taking the Vikings. It's not crazy because it's 1.5. This game could be close. And it might be because the NFC North, man, it ain't all that. But I'm taking the Vikings. I don't have a direct, longer explanation because I don't believe right now in my longer explanations. I feel like I got to make a statement, believe, and hope for the best.
It's okay. Because I'm kind of with you on the next one. I really, like, the next one is total gut.
It's interesting, though. So we're on opposite sides, game 1. We go to game 2. Number 1 pick versus number 2 pick. What could have been?
Right.
Do we believe that Stroud would have made the Panthers better? Would it have been the better move? Would Bryce Young be playing great in Houston? We don't know.
I'm going to say yes, and then I'm going to contradict myself completely because I'm taking the Panthers plus 3.5. I am. Look, I get the field goal hook, which I love. All right.
I knew you were going to like that.
This Panthers team
I was like, I knew he was coming.
is 0-6. At some point, they have to turn the tide around, right? They got to get this thing going in the right direction. And they're coming off a bye, but so is Houston. So 2 teams coming off a bye. I want to see how each rookie quarterback responds to coming off a bye week. But to me, everyone's on Houston.
On the road, man.
Everyone loves Stroud over Bryce, and rightfully so. But at some point, they're going to have an answer. You're going on the road. To me, this is a personal game. Both teams are going to take this personally. Stroud, I should have been number 1 over you. Bryce, I'm going to show you why I'm the number 1 overall pick. At the end of the day, I'm not saying Carolina wins, but I think it's close.
The hook.
And I'm going to take that hook there. Panthers plus 3.5. 61% of the bets are on the Texans per the Action Network. I like taking the Panthers. I know they haven't looked pretty this year, and they're 0-6. They're winless, but you get them at home, you get that hook. I think it's a perfect spot to take a team that hasn't given you much to really, back them for all year long. So give me the Panthers here. I love this spot.
I'll tell you what. You look at this and you're like, all right, Texans, they're the better team. Panthers are just trash. You gotta love Stroud. You gotta love the vibe. You gotta love everything that's happening. Because the offense of what you thought could have been for the Panthers is not clicking in any facet. Now, Stroud, he's come back down to earth a little bit from his stellar, first couple weeks, looking nice in the NFL, really popping off as an offensive rookie. Probably still as the favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Oh, yeah.
But the Texans as a whole haven't really been playing that well together. They've made a little bit more closer games. They've put a lot more things into question. Yes, good statement of coming off the bye. There's that little wake-up call. You have a little more rest, a little more preparation for this game. I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all. But you gave the small word that you said that I believe in, surprisingly, is the hook.
It's the hook.
And I'm going to go with the Panthers with you on this one.
Okay.
Because those little things that have happened before, you knew. It was just in the back of your mind. You're like, it's right there. Do it. And I'm like, no. I'm hopping on the hook.
Hop on the hook.
I'm hopping on the hook.
And the thing that I love about this game, too, is you're right. How does each quarterback look coming off the bye? Like, I can't say confidently that either team is going to look one way or the other coming off the bye because we haven't seen it
They
yet.
may look worse. They may
But
look
here's
behind.
the difference for me is one team is 3-3 and the other is 0-6. How do you think they approach the bye? I mean, you have one team that's trying to win a game. You have the other team that is chilling. They've already exceeded expectations. So I feel like this is a little bit more of a Texans want to win. The Panthers need this win. They need to get they want to get that first win, right? They're the only team that hasn't won so far this year. So they got to get it done at some point.
And they need to start showing something because they don't have that pick anymore.
They don't. They have no incentive to lose out.
Exactly. So I'm going to ride the hook with you. I'm going to ride the hook.
All right. I love it. I love it.
Were you shocked?
No, not.
Maybe slightly, but not a ton.
I just know it's the right pick in my heart. In my heart of hearts, I know that's the right pick.
My gut tells me Houston, but my logic is like hook.
It's the hook.
The hook.
Speaking of a game without a hook, we have Eagles Commanders.
In Washington, Eagles favored by 7. They disgust me. The Commanders. They've upset me week after week after week. They played so great. Even in Philly, they took it to overtime, and they lost the game. And, I took them against Chicago. I took them against the Giants last week.
I know.
How would I expect to take them here?
I'll build the case, or I'll try to.
Build the case for me.
So this is unrelated to football, but it is the up-down theory. You get the Eagles coming off a big Sunday night win at home against a quality opponent in Miami. You get a Washington team coming off a tough road loss against the Giants. So I got one team that's feeling hot. I got one team that's feeling not. Typically that might lead you towards, one team playing better, one team playing worse.
Ron Rivera needs a win.
That's the thing, though. This Commanders team, they're struggling right now. I know they had the win against the Falcons 2 weeks ago, but by and large part, they have not looked good all year long. They do need this one badly, and they did it last year against the Eagles. Remember on Monday Night?
That was their first loss of the year.
Eagles, their first loss was against the Commanders, so they've done it in the past. The public slightly leaning Eagles. 53% of the bets are on Philly per the Action Network, so slight lean to the Eagles. It's just so tough for me to back this Commanders team.
I can't.
At every corner, they upset me. They do something poor. They do something ugly. But in spite of all that,
oh gosh, the butt. As soon as I heard that word,
they're one of those teams that just seems to play Philly well. And not to say they're Philly's boogeyman, but they know how to keep it close. And I'm just going to go with the recent trend here where Commanders have been in the game and they've looked the part. So I'm going to take Washington +7. I hate the pick, but it's a touchdown. Leaves the door open for a backdoor cover. I hate it, but I'm going to take the Commanders.
Like in college, I always said, I was like, Utah. Anytime you can't pick against them. And you know what? I can't pick I can't pick with and take the Commanders. I can't. Hurt me. Break my heart this Sunday.
I know, man.
I'm fly, Eagles, fly. I can't.
I don't blame you.
I can't.
You did just take the Commanders last week, so you're a little bit more,
I've taken them every time we've had them.
I took the Giants. I felt very comfortable with that pick. That was my favorite pick of last week.
I know.
And it hit, thankfully for me, because I would have been I would have been 0-5 right there with you.
I can't. Fly, Eagles, fly.
This week, I'm going to do the reverse and take the Commanders. You're on the Eagles. I don't hate you for it. I actually respect it. You have to do it. You have to do it at this point.
Absolutely. Okay. Game 4. This game bothers me to the core. Because I like both these teams. The Bengals,
I know.
Bengals to the Bay. Niners favored by 4.5. Bengals are very up and down. We don't know what to expect out of them right now, week in, week out. The Niners coming off two road losses. Both of their first losses of the season. They're come back home. Brock Purdy's probably out. No Debo. Sam Darnold with the start.
They're banged up right now. Maybe no Trent Williams. We'll see
that.
on him. He didn't play last week. Luckily, McCaffrey played for them, but ultimately they didn't beat the Vikings, as we all know. The difference between Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold for me is minimal. at best. I do think they're similar. I think you get the same production out of Darnold for a game that you can out of Purdy, so I'm not too concerned about the quarterback here.
I agree.
I'm more concerned about the health overall of the Niners. They're very banged up. No, Trent Williams is massive. Debo, big, but not as big as Trent. But they're still 4.5-point favorites. Like, this number is kind of weird to me because I know the Bengals haven't looked good, but you get them off a bye week. Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, they should be healthier. Joe Mixon, like their entire team should be feeling good and ready to go in this one. But you got to go on the road to a Niners team that is coming off 2 losses. For me, it's really hard to envision a scenario where they lose again. Now, this is 4.5 points. That's a nice little chunk there.
That's my concern.
It is. But the public loves the Bengals in this one. 74% of the bets
I'm not
on
surprised. I'm not surprised
on
at all.
Cincy. So, while I do think, and we've seen this in the past with the Bengals, they're kind of a road darling at times. They're not afraid to go into tough places and sneak out a win. But you're telling me that San Fran just
Rolls
doesn't get
over
this
in
done?
0-3.
That's the thing.
They
is,
still
like,
got a
I
defense.
I feel like San Fran, if they're going to win this one, it's going to be by a touchdown or something like that. Like, they're going to. It could be a
27-20.
It could be a one-score game, but I could see like a 27-20, 27-21, where they just get out of this ballpark here of 4.5. They're coming home. They have the right recipe. I haven't been totally impressed with the Bengals' defense either. I mean, they've had
That's a
some games
concern.
and they had a nice game against Seattle, but
Their
this
run
isn't
defense
Seattle.
is awful. The run defense is awful. McCaffrey's going to be good, but they can't even get the run going either. So you're talking
No.
about it's got to be one through the air right now with the Bengals. So
I'm just going to stick with what I know, and it's that I do believe the Niners are still the best team in the league, and Kyle Shanahan is going to have his guys ready to go. They know they can't drop a third in a row. They just can't, and they're not going to. They're going to win this game, and I think they win it by more than 4.5 points. So I'm taking the Niners confidently. It's my most confident pick of the week.
really,
Outside of
Packers?
outside of Panthers plus 3.5.
Ooh,
I feel really
okay.
good about that one.
that hook, man.
I do like that one a lot. But Niners minus 4.5 is my pick for sure here. I just have to do it.
Yeah, this game really bothered me because I could see the sneakiness, just the sneakiness of just a Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase kind of outing. But it really would have to be, I feel like it really would have to be about the same as that Arizona outing. Maybe it can be a little less, but for them to win this game, it'd have to be like that. The Niners still got the defense. I think having them believing in themselves, being like, we're back home, let's get it done, let's play some smart ball, and I just think the home field vibe keeps them positive, and I just got to go with the Niners. I gotta just trust them. Even though it's been hard lately, I gotta trust the Niners.
It has been difficult, but
I agree I agree with you. I think at their peak, nobody in the league is better than them. They've dropped some games, and teams are going to. It's the NFL. But I agree. I think overall, if they're playing, everyone's healthy, they're at their peak, they're the best team in the league.
and that's the thing. It's so tough for me to envision a scenario where the Niners lose, but at the same time, you got Joe Burrow on the other end, and he's known to win these kinds of games and to have his team in these kinds of games too, where it is a field goal game, and that's where I get a little concerned. Am I just overlooking completely the Bengals here?
Like they escape a 23-20 win, the Niners, but we don't cover.
Exactly. That's my biggest concern. Is I'm just completely overlooking the Bengals here. That's my big concern.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Joe Burrow can just be like, all right, it's game time. Or they can just fall apart and look like nothing.
That's the thing. But a little bit of a comfort stat here. Niners have covered the spread in 10 consecutive home games dating back to last year. That's the longest home cover streak in the NFL.
They love it being at home, man. They play well at home.
They do.
They play well at home.
So that's kind of what we have to hope for, is that home Niners just get it done, and we walk out with a nice 5, 6, 7 point victory. So we're both on the Niners in this one?
Yep.
All right. Let's get to game 5, the big one, Monday night.
Ain't this what they've been waiting for? You ready? Monday Night Football. Who heard of that in the Motown?
It's been a while.
It has. It has. Another primetime game for the Lions. Third one this year, I believe.
Yeah.
Monday night, the Raiders head to Detroit. Lions favored by 7.5. Both coming off tough losses. Some tough losses. Raiders in Chicago against the Bears. The Lions got dismantled and looked like what happened to them in Baltimore. Both teams looking for a win on Monday night.
They are. The Raiders definitely need a win. The Lions surely want to bounce back after that abysmal performance in Baltimore. Yeah, and that's, for me, the easy way to look at it. Lions bounce back, win. They win big, easy, and that's what the public's doing. 97. Let me repeat.
Wow.
97% of the bets are on the Detroit Lions per the Action Network. That is an obscene number.
Fade.
It could be a fade spot. It really could. But I've seen this Lions team beat up on the bad ones, and it's really difficult for me to think that this Raiders team is going to roll in on Monday night and perform. I don't know, man. You lead off here, because I'm kind of stuck, because my brain is telling me to just take the Raiders, but my heart is telling me this is the Lions, and they've done really well against these kinds of opponents, and they've been well at home.
Wake up, bounce back. Dan Campbell's not taking no crap.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I can see that, especially with that little half right there. You're talking, hey, you win by 20. Somehow you win, like, say 24-17. Well, that's annoying.
I know, the Raiders get the touchdown hook.
Exactly. If you're up 24-10, garbage time touchdown, right?
Literally.
That's just sitting right there. Look at that. Think about that. Think about that. You're up, late.
You're up
It's
14 with 1:15 left, and they punch one in, right? And then onside kick, they don't get it. You take a couple of knees, and you win by 7.
And you're like, woo, win.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can see that, but I can't believe it. Give me the Lions.
You're always on the Lions, and I love it.
I can't not.
It does feel like a Lions spot, and that's the issue for me, is everyone is on them.
And I don't.
The world is on the Lions, but maybe it's just one of those things where it makes sense, right? The Lions are clearly the better team. I don't think anyone believes the Raiders are going to win this game.
They're at home.
Are they going to be in the game?
They're at home. Dan Campbell's going to get the boys back together. Goff's going to look better. Maybe there'll be some connections better. I think there's a lot still to be said. I know you're not a fan, but it's still looking up for Gibbs.
He had a nice performance last week, and this Raiders team just gave up a ton of yards to Deonta Foreman. And they got gashed, too.
Yes.
And that's the thing is, I know the Lions lost by a ton, but so the Raiders.
But that's another thing, too, looking at that. Yes, they let up Foreman, but Foreman's also more of a power back.
That is
compared
true.
to Gibbs.
That is true.
That's why the advantage has been, with Montgomery in. But not saying Gibbs can't do what he needs to do. Maybe he's feeling a little more like, okay, I'm like out there, I'm getting the reps, I feel more part of this. Maybe he takes advantage of that. Jameson Williams, a lot of upside still left for him, I think. I mean,
Goff and him just got to get on the same page.
Exactly.
And that's the thing, too, is Goff is so good at home. So I expect Goff to have a big game. It's just that defense. How do they respond, right? And this is a Raiders team that does boast a Josh Jacobs, a Devontae Adams, a Jacoby Myers who had a great year, Michael Mayer, their rookie tight end from Notre Dame. He had a nice game a couple weeks ago. Expect him to be more involved in the offense.
I mean, we could say a lot, though, too, but the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, Tyson Bagent, they won by 18 points. I think it was 30-12. It was like 18, 20-point win.
Yeah.
So
maybe Devontae will want to stay.
You're right, man.
Devontae stays.
I'm going to take the Lions by 7.5. I'm going to ride with the rest of America. But
something in your gut is poking at that.
I won't be surprised if the Raiders
garbage time
backdoor cover, garbage time touchdown, and they get it under the 7.5 point number. I'll be stunned if the Lions lose this game. Just from we're not even talking about the spread. If they lose this game, I'm gonna hit the panic button. I'm going to. I have to.
We need to be going 6-2 into this bye week.
You got to be 6-2 going to the bye, and Brad Holmes needs to get on the phones and add someone to this defense.
Because
whether it's in the secondary or defensive line, we got to get someone in there.
Because no matter how weird and upsetting they're playing and how trash they're looking, coming out of that bye week, you're going to LA and playing the Chargers.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It's still Herbert. It's still the Chargers. I know there's been upsets and they're just not looking at everything, but I think that lands more on Staley than anything else.
It's just a much different story if you're going to LA 5-3 as opposed to 6-2.
Absolutely.
Right? Because it's not easy for a Detroit team, a team on the Northeast or Midwest, to go all the way out to LA to play a game. However, if you're 6-2 and you lose to the Chargers, you can stomach that a little bit more as opposed to being 5-3 and then you lose. Now you're 5-4 and Minnesota is right on your heels.
Exactly.
So this is a must win. They know it's a must win. I know the response is going to be there because this team gets up after losing. And they're one of the few teams that actually have like a proven track record of when they get their teeth punched in, they punch the other team's teeth in.
Absolutely. And, you think about that. You hit that, right? You get that win, go into the bye week, guys getting healthy, trade deadline. There can be a lot of rotation before you head out to LA.
And I do like, for the Lions this year especially, like it's just working out perfectly, that the trade deadline coincides with their bye week. So if they do make a trade, they can bring them in. You get a week extra to prepare. And then that game against LA, he's fully ready to go, right? If it is someone like a Surtain, right? Obviously, that's going to cost a ton, but he'll have a couple weeks to get accumulated with the defensive scheme and with Aaron Glenn and what he wants to do. If it is someone like a Max Crosby, which would be awesome, but I don't think that's going to happen.
He just stays.
Or right, or a Chase Young, a Danielle Hunter. It's not going to be, for me, totally difficult to insert them in because go get the quarterback, right? That's going to be their main job. But with a cornerback like Surtain, how they're going to use him with Sutton, different ways, different formations, man, zone, what Aaron Glenn likes to do, could be a little bit more difficult. But I do love that the bye week for the Lions, right after the trade deadline.
Also, side shout out to Marvin Jones Jr. We don't know the full story. Is stepping away from the team and football in general right now. So best wishes and thoughts with him at this time with his family troubles. But shout out to him. He's always been great to have in Detroit. Good guy.
Yeah.
But, it's tough to see him go, but we know guys are prepared to step up, be the next up.
Let's hope so. Be on the lookout for the Twitter pick of the week. This week it will be NFL.
Yes,
Already
sir.
have it locked in. Friday morning you'll see it. And every Friday morning it's going to be posted. This week it will be NFL again. Last week Vikings +7 that hit. And let's kick it off with the Vikings and Packers in the recap. Game 1, Vikings, Packers. Justin's on the Packers. I'm on the Packers. Justin's on the Vikings. -1.5, +1.5. All right. Game 2, Texans, Panthers. Me and Justin both on the Panthers, +3.5. We got the hook.
Hook 'em.
Game 3, Eagles head to DC. I'm on the Commanders, +7. Justin is on Philly, -7. Fly. Eagles, fly.
Can't.
Game 4, Bengals head to San Fran. Justin, me, Evan, both on the Niners, -4.5. Shocking. He's not going with his boy Joe Burr.
I can't right now.
And then Game 5, Monday Night Football. The Vegas Raiders head to O-Town to take on the Lions. And me and Justin both on the hometown boys, -7.5. Expecting them to bounce back and win big. Those are your Week 8 picks. Cannot wait. I think this is going to be a really fun week. Stay on the lookout for the Twitter pick every week, Friday morning, SCJ Sports Pod.
He's hitting them.
What do you got to say? Any closing remarks?
Let's get back to it. Let's hit the ground running. Year 1 in the books. Season 2. We are here. If you were checking out last year, Revenge Tour Part 2.
That's this week.
This week is Revenge Tour Part 2.
All right.
We got to get active. I've been able to bounce back, but my consistency is the issue. So let's see a bounce back, keep it consistent, and roll with it to the Bay.
Enough said. Enough said. We got 5 picks for you. I'll have a 6th.
Yes, check that
And-
out.
Let's get positive this week. I know you physically cannot.
But as a straight week, we can.
Exactly.
Week by week, we take it one at a time. I hope you're taking one pick at a time.
In the wise words of Greg Olson, there are no 28-point plays.
Big brains.
Right? You can't. There's no 28-point play. So there's no 10. There's no 10-game cover, right? In one game.
Absolutely.
It's week by week, one game at a time. You got this. We're going to get back to positive in the NFL for you.
Believe it. That's another week. We'll see you next time on Squeeze the Juice. Peace.